So next up is Patricia Robertson. So Patty, I see Patty over there. So Patty's the head of learning and development, innovation and knowledge management at Shire Pharmaceuticals. So Shire, as you might imagine, like all pharmaceuticals companies, very heavily regulated industry. You know, very precise in terms of what you are allowed to and not allowed to do. Heavily monitored, the FDA and everything else. CFR 21 part 11, you know, all this kind of stuff. So it would seem like the very last place where you would actually find the green, you know, the sprouting of learning innovation. But Patty has proved otherwise. So this afternoon, Patty's going to talk to us about crowdsourcing learning and how you can use that to fuel innovation in life and at work. Please, Patty.
I'm dragging Dave up here with me because I want to model that it takes a village to build an enterprise platform, especially when you're the only person tasked within the enterprise or resource to build an enterprise platform. So Dave and I have been joined at the hip, as well as a lot of the other EdCast's guys. And so I really feel like it's as much EdCast's baby as it is ours, and even more theirs, because they've built this incredible thing. So I'm really happy to be here and be able to share time with you. I feel like time is the one variable in our lives that we have very little of, and so how you spend it is so important. And so I think it's really amazing that you're all here willing to share your time talking about these really important topics that can change people's lives. My presentation is about crowdsourcing, or crowd sharing as I really like to call it. I'm making this up as I go along, because as I heard all the different speakers, I thought if I'm going to use your time most judiciously, I don't want to repeat things that we already know. And so I'm going to focus a little bit more on what our journey was and what the challenges are to try to actually take an enterprise legacy system of record world and bring it into a system of engagement, and how frightening that is as a change process for many of the people that work in those functions in particular. So that's, and when I was naming the presentation originally, it didn't have in life, and I've been watching a whole bunch of TED Talks, and I thought, if we can't connect, as Rahul said, with people in their lives, then how can we expect them to bring their full innovative self to work? Right? It's really oxymoronic to think that we could do that. And so I added that because I think you do have to begin with the person and the human, and so I added that to it. So let's kind of get going. I just want to tell you a little bit about complexity. I want to talk a little bit about complexity. So our company is relatively small compared to some of you, Walmart and Accenture, but we do have 24,000 people in 65 countries, and we actually sell complex products to people with rare diseases in over 100 countries. And we have 7 therapeutic areas. In the last 10 years, we've done 7 acquisitions. 6 of them were bolt-ons, and the last one was more of a David and Goliath thing. We actually, as a 6,000 person company, acquired a 19,000 person company with a very different book of business of ours. So, you know, to the McKinsey people, as they were saying, that change is a constant dynamic in our company, not only from a product standpoint, a market standpoint, but from a systems standpoint as well. We're always integrating systems and shifting groups and reorganizing and riffing and all of those things. And in the midst of it all, we're supposed to be agile, innovative, and coming up with great things all the time. So we really have a tall order that we're asking of our people. And so I think you have to, when you ask those tall orders, it's even more important to remember that they're human beings. In addition, people outside of our company, you know, of the 350,000 people with rare diseases in the world, only 7,000 of the rare diseases that we know about, there's only 5% of those that have treatments. So we have people, 50% of those people are children. So we have people, we're super purpose-driven because, and we have pictures of our patients all over the walls in our buildings, which is awesome. And so you always remember when you go in that these people depend on us and they count on us to be agile, innovative, and efficient. But at the end of the day, the problem we face with the complexity, diverse and geographic, We're specialized in siloed. So we have discovery PhD scientists. We have people in manufacturing facilities who don't even have a corporate phone. We've got people in the center, the role of the center, which is what we do. We provide services to the business to make sure it hums along. So we're all kind of, by natural order of things, siloed. So it's, it's very difficult for us in the busyness of the world that we live in to actually connect. It takes real effort to do that. Lastly, we all know there's digital disruption and all these tech shifts, and as much as they've made opportunities for improvements, at the same time, one of the things I'm going to focus on today is the opportunity cost of these systems on the time that we have in our day. And lastly, we have learning shifts. So we have, just even within our silo, the learning silo, or in my case, I work in enterprise IT, we have our own universe that we work in, and we're a little myopic day to day, and their heads down about what our world looks like and what we need to do to perform in our silo. And that makes it difficult because there's shifts occurring in each of those. Learning in particular, how you move from classroom, I was shocked at the statistic, like 59% is still classroom, or 56, to real digital learning. So we know, we accept all these things as truths. This is where I grew up, and when we had the meditation guy yesterday, it was just, when I look at the picture, and I carry this picture in my heart when I go through every day, and when I show up, and you meet me here, inside of my mind is this place. And we all have that place. And for me, when he talked about meditation, I felt this place, right? And so whenever, like Rahul, I meet somebody in my place of work or on the street even, I try to imagine what their place is. And I start there. And the other thing that's kind of unique about where I grew up, and this is in Maine, and if you drive into the state of Maine, and this is on the top part of Maine, 14 miles from Canada, the sign says, "Welcome to Maine, the way life should be." And that's in my mind, and I ask myself, when thinking about this, what is the way work should be? And could we really work at our highest and best use, not only to solve problems for people with rare diseases, but to help each other from a day-to-day standpoint, to be at our highest and best use. And so I really, Rahul's talk particularly resonated because it's about how we help each other. And we have to help each other in 3 dimensions. One is as individuals, as we go through day to day, because inside of each of us there's some person that has some visual of the world. The second is that we have to help ourselves in our small communities of culture, whether it's our team, our silo, or whatever. And then we have to have the voice and the bravery to help our organizations understand what isn't working for us. And what I want to argue that isn't working for us are some of the infrastructure systems that we put in place that crowd out learning. So I go to a lot of conferences all over the country, even around the world, thanks to edX. And I hear people talking about how they can improve learning or improve the content or improve this or that. At the end of the day, if you can't improve the amount of time the individual has to spend on it and get their intention, you could have the best content in the world and nobody has any time to look at it. So for me, it was solving the problem of time. And so I studied economics undergraduate in college, and this was one of my favorite things because I come from an agrarian part of the world. It's called The Tragedy of the Commons. Does anyone know what the tragedy, have you heard of it? How many people understand it, right? So, a little village, like where I live in Lexington, Mass, there's the common where the shot heard around the world was fired. People brought sheep down, and because nobody owned the common, people said, hey, I'm going to put more of my sheep on that common. I'm going to put my cows on that common. And before you know it, the common was just a big bowl of dust. Because no one owned it. No one said, wow, the grass is gone. I think we're suffering from a tragedy of the commons and the enterprise because the way we allocate resources and the systems and structures we put in place have made it that any single unit of production that you use up, which could be something as simple as 5 minutes of somebody's time, actually crowds out their ability to be at their highest and best use, to share knowledge in a way that we all want to see them share it, or to actually just get home on time to pick their kids up from the daycare, right? So my call to you is to think about how you as an individual, for yourself, as a member of a team, or as a member of an enterprise, which is a small community, you could think about what part you could play in preserving the commons for everyone. And I love this, I had to put it in because it's so funny. If these idiots would just take the bus, I could be home by now, right? And I live in Boston, so I feel this way a lot. That's a tragedy of the commons. So the world outside of work, we get to decide, right? So when I get outside my building, I'm in Shire, and the reason Dave's here too is my computer completely just blew up and I couldn't get on my VPN, okay? Couldn't download the files, so now it's running on Dave's machine and mine. Outside of work, when I exit the building, I'm like dialing up an Uber on my phone, I'm putting my Spotify on, I get my Waze going. I decide, and it's simple and easy. Same thing with sharing and learning. I'm always on edX, we're partners with edX, I love those guys. They're brilliant, they've innovated so amazingly. This is the way I share and learn, and lastly, we're moving that way at work where we're seeing Slack and other tools like that, but there's still a lot of work to go because they're not integrated. So why we love EdCast? We love EdCast because EdCast lets us do what are the 5 Ps of crowdsourcing. And so this is how I implemented this at a big corporation where we have Coupa, Viva, O365, you all have these things, right? Xerion, ServiceNow, right? So I'm a self-service unit for my tech, my travel, my Expensify, my document management, and I'm supposed to do this and run digital learning, okay? So it's no wonder that we only spend 29% of our day with learning, right? Or on a day job, I mean. So if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 29% roughly of our time is spent on our actual day job. The rest is in meetings and all this other stuff. So that's pretty costly for the enterprise. The other interesting statistic was sleep has now overtaken, work has now overtaken sleep. It's something like 8.6 hours we work and 7.7 hours we sleep. And we know that's going to continue going in that way. So we decided what we needed to do was put a stick in the spokes. And so while we couldn't quickly shift all these enterprise systems to make us more efficient, because it takes time, and we actually need them, because we do have regulatory things, we have to comply, we have to report, we need our LMS. Fundamentally, we had to do something to show what good could look like, and then build something so that people could imagine a future that might work for them and looked somewhat like the future that the reality that they exist in outside of the office. So Waze, Flipboard, Reddit, whatever you do, whatever your fun things are. So I thought, well, let's crowdsource it, right? So in crowdsourcing, people. So we sent 5 signals out into our system when we launched this thing. The first one was, we had to send a really strong signal that said, unlike every other system that we've implemented, that we've announced, this system, we number one, didn't announce it. We put it up on the tools and resources menu, on our hub, on our SharePoint. I went around the company and evangelized to who I thought might be early adopters and built a federated system of people and got them excited about it, and they've been emailing me for about 5 months saying, when can I use it? 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 And I've demoed it a whole bunch. And now I wrote to them and said, hey, it's up there. Go use it and tell all your friends. Okay? So we did a soft launch so that we wouldn't threaten a lot of the existing enterprise systems, because the way we've approached it is, this is Switzerland. It's for everyone. And somebody had it up on their slide too. It's for the people and by the people. So that was important for sending the signal into the system that, unlike the way you feel about some of these other systems, your time matters to us. Your ideas matters to us, sharing matters to us, and creating matters to us. And we're going to look at that, and we're going to enable you, and then we're going to largely get out of the way. So that was important. The second thing is, if we can do that, if we can recoup time, we can actually get people to focus on the right stuff. So can we shift, even if we shifted 29% of your time spent on your day job, what if you shifted that up to like 30? You'd have major improvements in a global company. So that was a big piece. The third was that It all hinges on participation. So by design, we did not do a leader top-down thing. In fact, we did the opposite, because if we always signal everything has to have leadership sponsorship, and my problem with that is that if only the leader pays attention to it is the only when it matters. And so if we're trying to send a signal that you matter, your ideas matter, your time matter, we need to say, you matter and you own it, we want to hear what you say, not that it has to be sanctioned by some leader. So we've gotten leaders involved as curators if they're SMEs, but we're largely going to run curation like it's a credential. So if you've got a point of view or you've got something to say about a subject, we'll put it up and then we'll show you how much feedback your content is getting in the system. So that was an important thing that we did. And then fourth and fifth are largely the platform and our performance. Because like, you know, Herb Kelleher at Southwest or anyone like that, I do believe that if you let the people tell you what to do, because they know, the performance will follow. And if you try to drive performance in the opposite way, I mean, I'm not saying metrics aren't good, I think you need to come from both sides. But those are kind of almost secondary. Once you get people freed up to focus on the right things, they're engaged, and then you can actually, the performance will follow. So I know we're almost out of time. Do we even have 1 minute to show it? So Dave, I've beaten Dave down over the last 6 months. We've worked hard on this. We haven't turned everything on either. So, and I would encourage any of you, if there's a way I can help you, please feel free to call me. I'd be happy to show it to you and talk to you about what we did. We made them turn off a lot of stuff that was in the system, because like any technology, there's so much that it can do. If you're taking people who are already feeling encumbered by complex systems and you say, okay, here's another complex system, look at all it can do. So we figured if we could just let people focus on consumption, sharing, and collaborating within the system, we'd leave the create button up, we'd leave some stuff on, but we're not going to train anybody on it. We're going to use the high performance academy that these guys have. So this is our instance. We also set it up more like your bookstore, so we tried to create things that were familiar. So if you look at Ellie's Pick, we aren't allowed to brand. I'd love to see HP where they could brand it, or you have Brilliant You or something. We're not allowed to brand anything inside our company. So we had to trick them and call it Ellie, like Alexa or something like that, because it stands, it's an acronym for Enterprise Learning Environment. Okay? So we're going to get snuck that one in there. And we put a little blue circle around it so it wouldn't look like a logo or anything. So Ellie's Picks are essentially like when you go to a bookstore and people say, our staff recommends. And so that encourages people to say, I personally think this is cool. So that's up there. We let people who have curatorial rights to post there. Today's top is the Build the Daily Learning Habits thing, which looks at what interests you put into the system. The machine helps you to, and it will curate 5 pieces of content daily for you to look. You can decide whether you want to get notified about whether that content comes or not. And then lastly, we just have things that are follow. But Dave, let's go to Discover, because that's where we did the most damage, I think, to you guys. And I know I'm running over, but is everyone okay? What we did in here, so the enterprise opportunity is when I went around and federated this thing, and you guys have all got this, I know. We own HMM. We own GetAbstract, we own EBSCO, we own Decision Resources, we buy assets, we own Gartner, we own CEB. We own assets, and they are owned in pockets across the enterprise, and no one even knows we have them in the other silos. So we pay these huge enterprise fees, they're not turned on except in the silo in which someone bought it. What we've done is through APIs, these guys have vacuum cleaned all of the API catalogs from all of our disparate assets, and I'm still looking for some. Put them in here so that they become a unified catalog, a unified library that has unified search. So any content that we import into here then, you know, opens up the door for unified search across all our assets so that we can actually drive usage of those assets. So you'll see within our featured providers, we have things like EBSCO in there. Dave, if you click on, go to EBSCO and I'll show, I could show off edX because Lee's here. But what it does is the other thing that's powerful, how the machine learning really works with the AI is, so I have interest in design thinking. So it goes in, when I click on an asset that I particularly like, the machine curates for me, based on my interests first, but I can still search on it, on anything else that I want, and we'll pull out of the environment. We set it up with channels for topics, so we can curate islands of culture around shared topics. So we break down silos around teams. So teams are no longer, oh, you work in IT. A team is, hey, we like design thinking, right? So it creates a major cultural shift in the company once people start thinking about themselves beyond the boundary of their function. That's going to be super important. The other thing it does is we can allow the functions to have their own channels. So we don't steal their identity and say your identity has to go away. We actually let them retain their identity by having an ERP channel, an IT channel, an R&D channel. They can control and curate those. They can migrate all their SCORM packets over in there. You'll see we have a Saba button. We're going to fully integrate into our Saba enterprise. We have 70,000 pieces of training in our Saba. It's so regressive, the training that we do, and people just cringe when we tell them that that's what our system is, just because of the way we've configured it. We're not in Saba Cloud. What we'll do is, this gives us the opportunity to modernize. So EdCast's gives us a place to land. So right now we have these enterprise systems with kind of nowhere to go except to a cloud version of the existing tool, right? We can say to ourselves, we have 70,000 pieces of content. Do they all have to be in there? Are they all compliance training? So we could actually remove complexity from that system by migrating new content into EdCast using the full authoring capability of edX or the pathway tools, which are beautiful and in some cases better than things like Articulate Storyline, for free, because those tools are embedded. So there's big enterprise opportunities to share federated content, to break down silos, to author and migrate content into the platform. And we haven't even started talking about mobile, and we're not going to show you that today. But you know, mobile, live stream like Carl showed the other day, we have 22,000 of our people are in factories distributed around the world where safety, creating biologics is quite important. Imagine you could walk around with your mobile phone and do a Gemba walk with the phone, maybe with some AR, helping you. So we're super proud of it. We're really happy. We launched it stealthily 2 weeks ago. It's up there, and we're going to very organically try to get our flywheel going. We're going to run a curate-a-thon. So we're going to shift the mindset on it's about sharing over just consuming. So we'll run curate-a-thons, and we have a few other creative ideas for doing it. So last, I don't know if we can switch back. Probably not. I think we're out of time, but please reach out. I'd be happy to show it to you. We're super proud. Everybody I have shown it to is just emailing me crazy. That was one of the big bottlenecks, was how many emails I had to respond to, because people are going, is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? So it's ready, and we have all our content aggregated. We're really proud of it. So thank you so much for your time.